this is the first time you are seeing me. So my name is Rachel Rabo. I'm a Microsoft Power Platform and Dynamics 365 CRM developer. So in my day-to-day job, I work with Dynamics 365 CRM applications and Power Platform, specifically Copilot Studio, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Pages. Okay, so I'm just going to be walking you through. I know you have started Copilot Studio, so I'm just going to, everything I'm going to be doing is, I have no slides, so we're just going to go directly to Copilot Studio. And if you have any questions at any point, feel free to just interrupt me and ask me a question. Okay, so right now I'm currently in Copilot Studio interface, and we are going to be working with a Copilot Studio that uses Power Automate. Like right now this is the interface for Copilot right now. And you can see that I have previous agents in Copilot. This particular Copilot you are seeing is the Copilot that works for Microsoft 365. Also, there is a Copilot that works for Power Apps. Like these are already, they are managed solution. Like they have already been built already and they are in the environment. So just in case if you see something like this in your own environment, it's just the normal Copilot that works in your environment. So this is Copilot for Microsoft 365. This is Copilot for Power Apps. And if you ever get to F&O, you're also going to see the same Copilot, a pre-built Copilot there too. So I just want you to notice that. So when we talk about Copilots and being able to bring Power Automate into the equation, okay? Being able to see how Power Automate works with, being able to see how Power Automate works with Copilot Studio. Apart from using Power Automate, there's something that you can also use too, and that is called agent flows. It has the same interface as Copilot, but it's called agent flows. And the last time I attended Microsoft Build, and they had a session which was focused on Copilot Studio. So I asked a question about because when you are working with Power Platform, you have to think about licensing, especially when you are trying to build a solution for a client. You have to think about, okay, is this particular feature I'm going to be using, does it require extra licensing? So for right now, the agent flows does not require an extra license. So it's still the same thing. It has the same interface as Power Automate, but you get to use it to directly build a flow. So you can see you have, has anybody gone to the interface for Power Automate? So the agent flow has the same interface as your, it has the same interface as your Power Automate flow. So I'm going to show you how to use, I'm just going to show you how the interface looks like. So you see, it starts in Designer. I want you to have a clue that if you do not want to use Power Automate, you can also use agent flow. Like you just have to, and for this, you need to already like, okay, so we have just one person who has gone through Power Automate. So let's go to Power Automate quickly. Okay. Let me just show you the interface of Power Automate. So in Power Platform, we have 5 applications. We have Power Apps, we have Power Automate, we have Copilot Studio, we have Power Pages, and then we have Power BI. So Power Apps is used for building applications. Power Pages is for creating a website that is connected to connected to your data. Then you have the Copilot Studio, which we are learning now, and it's used for building agents. And one trick that you need to know is that right now, Copilot Studio is like companies are looking for people who have this particular skill. Like if you know how to build agents with Copilot Studio, if you know how to create custom connectors in Copilot Studio, you are a hot cake. So please take it serious. And after this cohort, try and extend your knowledge on Copilot Studio. Then we also have Power BI, which is for reporting, building of dashboards. Then we have Power Automate. So Power Automate is for things that you need to do manually. You can just use Power Automate to cut down repetitive tasks. You can use Power Automate to automate your process, like things that you feel that, okay, this particular thing can be automated. Why don't I just automate it? It can be something as simple as your email, like the email you get from textilers. Instead of it coming into your direct email box, you can just create a Power Automate flow. And if you can first of all create a folder in your Outlook email, and then create a Power Automate flow that whenever any keyword, any email that contains the keyword textilers, it should move that email into that particular folder in your Outlook. So there are simple things that you can do with Power Automate. So this is the interface of Power Automate, where you can either use Copilot Studio, and in Power Automate you have your cloud flow, you have your business process flow, and you have your desktop flow. So these are three types of flow. You have your cloud flow, you have your business process flow. Then I'm just trying to, so that you just have a basic understanding about it. I know we are not doing Power Automate specifically. So we have your business process flow. So business process flow is more focused on your modern driven apps. Then your desktop flow is you have to have the application in your, like you have to have the application, like now in Cloudflow you get to build it inside of your web. Okay, so we have your automated cloud flow, instant cloud flow, and scheduled cloud flow. So this is the point I want to make. In Power Automate, for cloud flows, you have your automated, your instant, and your scheduled cloud flow. So for the interface of agent flow, it's not as direct as that. Okay, it's not as direct as that. You just go to your flows, you add a trigger. So you get to choose which particular trigger you want to use. And the trigger is mostly which is when an agent calls the flow. And this is more of manually trigger a flow, which is your instant cloud flow. Okay. So you add an input and stuff like that. But I just want to show you that you have two options to choose from. You can either use an agent flow or a Power Automate flow. So let's go ahead to our agents. So let's create an agent. Okay, so let's create an agent. In creating an agent, we have templates. So you can also look through this too. We have templates of website Q&A, voice, we have financial insights, and you can get more of these templates if you have some certain license, So you can see more of these templates. But right now, these are the templates that are showing for me. This template, the tag is government. This is focused on finance and financial services. This is operations and supply chain. You can see these are the different particular agent templates. And what is an agent? An agent is just a chatbot. It's just Microsoft giving it the name agent. So an agent is just a chatbot, but it has an extra capability of AI. Okay, so if I come to Copilot Studio, I sign into my account, and then I click on new agent. So I click on new agent. This gives me an interface where I can describe the type of agent I'm looking for, like the type of agent I want to build. I can come here and just describe it. You can see Copilot is asking me, yeah, hello, I'm here to help you build an agent so you can get more done. You can say something like provide best practices for project management, or help my teammates on board into a new project. What would you like me to make? So I don't want to, you can do this. You can easily use Copilot to describe your agent, but I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to click create instead. So then now in the overview, I'm going to make some changes in the overview. Like I'm going to change the name of the agent. I can add a description. I can add a general instruction. I can add, you can see I can add topics. I can add a knowledge if I wanted the knowledge to be specific on either from Azure AI Search, from SharePoint, from Dataverse, or whatsoever, or a file, if that is what I want to use as the knowledge, or a website. Okay. So there's one thing I want to show you is that immediately I built this agent, there are some topics that was automatically built with it. And the topics are the conversation starts, the conversation boosting, the conversational boosting, the end of conversation, escalate, fallback, multiple topics matched, on error, reset conversation, and signing. So all these conversations, you can, if you want to switch them off, you just have to switch them off from this particular point. If there's anyone that you do not want, you can switch them off. And if you want to edit any of them, you can just easily go into that particular topic. So you can easily go to that particular topic and then make changes to it if you want to. Okay, so I just want to show you that. So that you be aware that, okay, topics, these are what topics are. Because agents, when you are working with, when you are working with building an agent in Copilot Studio, you create topics. Like you can create as much topics as you want. Like there's this mistake that a lot of people make, is that when they have different requirements, like they have different requirements, and how can I put this in a simpler term now? Like they want a chatbot to do different things. They want it to do different things. Like for instance, when a user goes into a chatbot and asks a question, they want another agent to answer that question. You get? Or this particular requirement, this is what it is. So they build multiple agents instead to fix that issue. So most times it's not in all cases, but most times it's much more preferable to use topics than to, you can easily build different agents and transfer it, but it's much more preferable to just, because you can create as much topics as you want. So you just have to work on creating topics instead of creating multiple agents. Okay. So then let's go back to overview.
Yes.
So,
Customer
okay,
support.
okay, thank you. And what should should it be focused on? Sorry.
It should be focused on assisting customers with their inquiries and resolving their complaints.
Which type of, because those are the things that you need to think of when you are working with a use case or a requirement. You normally, a customer support is supposed to help with resolving an issue, being able to answer question. But what particular industry or what particular business is the customer supporting? We have like if you have a bakery and you have a website, you have a customer support for that answers question on when is your closing time, your starting time, the address, what type of services do you offer, the prices for the cakes, prices for snacks, how many, if you order today, how many days will it take for if they order today, how many days will it take for them to get a delivery? So I'm just going to go straight ahead quickly to show you how you can do this with agents. So add a topic. We're going to create from blank. Okay, we're going to create from blank. And right now I'm using agents with Copilot with generative AI. So I'm going to change that. I want to use agents with triggers. So I'm going to go to overview, then scroll down. This is it. Okay, so I'm going to switch that off. So I'm going to come back here to topics and click on add a topic, click from blank. So now we have trigger phrases. Okay, so If we have a topic like, so we have a question, let's say now everything we have here, they
Sorry,
are called.
excuse me. Sorry. Did you switch off the overview just because you wanted to add the topics?
Yes, I did not want to use I mentioned we have two triggers. We have the trigger that uses generative AI, and we have
Yeah.
the trigger that use trigger phrases. So I did not want to use the generative AI trigger. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to use phrases trigger. So
Okay. Like,
I yeah, so I
go
just
ahead.
came to this place and switched off the orchestration.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So if I click from blank, we have this is my trigger. I'm going to click on plus, then ask a question. So everything we have here, they are called conversation nodes. This is your conversation node. So this particular one I have is a question node. So if I have a question node like wait, okay, let's say for instance, what is your name? Then we have data types. This identifies like a data type. So we have multiple choice option. I don't want to use multiple choice option, so I'm going to use a user's entire response. So it's just me saving that response. Okay, so I'm going to go directly to use a flow now. So it's just me using a user data response is just me saving that particular person's response, their question. Then if I click on this plus again, I'm going to show you how to use Power Automate right now. We are already short of time. So we have send a message node, ask a question node, ask with adaptive card node, add a condition, we have variable management, we have topic management, we have add an action. So this is where the add an action works. And you can do this in two ways, okay? If I click on add an action is you bringing in either a custom connector, okay, or an action. I'm not trying to bring in, you can either, I don't want to bring in I don't want to bring something outside of the box like a plugin. And you have like that's the reason why you guys need to go through the interface of Power Automate. So for instance, now, yeah, I have all these actions here and they are from Power Automate. Okay. I don't want to make, you can use this if you want to, but I don't want to make use of this. So I have to go to basic actions. And in basic actions, we have this particular point where you have new agent flow. Okay. So you can click on new agent flow. If you click on new agent flow, it's going to take you directly to agent flows. Then it's going to take you directly to agent flows and response to the agent. So this particular, when an agent calls the flow, is an input. So it's an input in the sense that this particular, okay, it's an input in the sense that the the answer from the inputs, like the outputs from the flow, would be the outputs from the topic would be an input here. Then the output here would be the total action, like what this particular thing is resolving. It will not be the output that would now show in the this thing, in the agents, in the topic when you are using it. But another way, if you want to directly use Power Automate, this is how you can use it. You need to create a solution. Okay. So you need to create a solution and then add that. You need to create a solution, add the agent inside of the solution, then also add the Power Automate flow inside the solution and publish all customization. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that. You publish all customization. When you publish all customization, it's going to show, when you publish all customization, it's going to show here. Like for instance, this is my old flow now. It's going to show, it's going to show here when you click on add actions, you're going to see the flow will come up. Like this particular thing you're seeing here now, it's a flow. get option sets. This is a flow. When an agent calls the flow, this is an agent flow. So I don't know if you get me. Okay. So for a solution, I'm going to quickly create a solution, name it textile as demo. Okay, thank you. So after creating the solution, I'm going to go directly and add an agent. And how can I add that agent that I have created? I just got to go click on add existing, go to agent, then click on agent. Okay. If I click on agent, then I'm going to look for that agent, which is named customer support. Okay. Then I'll add it here. Okay, so when I add it here, it's going to automatically add, like everything you are seeing here right now, they are all topics. It's going to automatically add all the topics that I have in that agent. Okay, so you can see this Stellar's demo that I created was added to, and you can see their type. They are all agents. Okay, so then another thing to do is that if I already have a flow, like if I have already created the flow, I just have to also click on add existing, go to automation, cloud flow, then now look for that Power Automate flow that I have created. Okay, then publish or customization. But right now, let's go ahead and create the flow. The trick is that if you understand how to do it, it's much better for you to understand how to do it in Power Automate. With that knowledge that you have with doing it on Power Automate, you can bring that knowledge into agent flows because it's the same thing you get, but it's just using different names of the trigger, of the inputs and the outputs. So if you have knowledge of Power Automate, you can bring it in here. Okay, but this is much, I think people look at it that is much easier and faster than Power Automate, because Power Automate, you have to go the extra step of creating a solution, adding everything there in order for it to show in your customer demo. Okay, so quickly, I'm coming. Let's see something. I create a lot of flow. I don't give it the proper name, so it's just, I just want to show you something I did recently. Okay, so let me check it from here. Give me a moment. Okay, so this I just want to show you I just want to show you two examples. Just give me a moment. Okay, so this is the interface I just want to quickly show you. Like for instance, now this flow, this particular flow has a trigger when an agent is called. Then it has, this is a normal action. Then it has the response to the agent. So the response to the agent is the output that is going back to the flow. So the interface is a little bit different. The Power Automate, because you have it inside of your Copilot Studio, the interface is a little bit different than your normal Power Automate or your normal when you are working with Power Automate, because it has these buttons. It has the save draft button. It has the publish button. These two buttons. Usually, when you're working with Power Automate, even in the classic designer, they are not there. Okay. Those are something I just wanted to point out. So let's go back to, I know we are taking time, but yeah, let's go back to this. Let's create a new flow. Okay, let's see from that point. So I'm going to look for the trigger Power Visual Agent. The Copilot Studio was previously named Power Visual Agent, but now it is named Copilot Studio, and Microsoft did a lot of changes in it. They brought AI and made it awesome. Yeah, so the agent is Power Visual Agent, but if you still look for Copilot Studio, I think you're still going to see it. Okay, from this point, you're not going to see it, but when you go inside of the flow, you will see it. Okay, so let's
you
go
must
back.
know the previous name of Copilot Studio as well.
Yes, Power Visual Agents. So in Power Automate, you work with triggers and actions. So your trigger, you must always have a trigger in your flow. So that is why now we have our trigger coming from, like you always have a trigger, and now our trigger is coming from Power Visual Agent. So I'm just going to create. And it's creating a connection for Power Visual Agent. It's like this most times. So I need to add a new step. Just give it a moment. Let's say compose. All right, just give me a moment. Let's save. So the error comes up most times, and I try to fix that by just automated. So instead of selecting the trigger here, I just click on skip. Okay, now I can look for Power Visual Agent. So you can see you have more than one. You have when Power Visual Agent calls a flow, when Power Visual Agent calls a flow V2. This is version 2, and this is currently in preview. You also have when Power Visual Agent calls a flow version 2. So I'm just going to use the first one. So now you see it's working. In case if you have the same issue, just know that that's how you can fix it. Okay, so then the next one is we need to add the action. I want to save it quickly, but let me add the action quickly. Just say hi, then save it. Okay, while I do that, okay, I'm looking for an action I created recently. I just want to show you something from there instead. Sorry, just give me a moment.
All right. So while Rachel is trying to get the right action, I think I know we've spoken a lot of power platformish terms like solutions. And maybe I'll try to explain what a solution is. So when you're building your applications, and the Power Virtual the Copilot Studio, formerly known as Power Virtual Agent, is a part of the Power Platform family of applications or Power Platform tools. And sometimes what you need to achieve is way beyond your Copilot Studio bubble. An example is what Rachel is showing us today, how you can use Power Automate to carry out certain actions. So all of the example of the trigger that she has shown is like when a user has given you an input value. So for example, if like we're treating the customer complaint and I need to get the status of my complaint, where is it at? the agent can say, oh, can you give me your email address? And I give him my email. Then what it does is it takes that email address. Now, remember that the customer is chatting with the agent, maybe on the website. It takes that email address and then it passes it to the flow. So the flow can then take that email and then you can do an action with that email. So that's the input parameter that we're using as a trigger in the Power Automate. So when an input parameter is received, what do you want to do next? So we can do, for example, we can take that input parameter and try to match it against an existing data set. So like if you have, if all of your customer complaints are being stored in a SharePoint list for the purpose of this example, what we can do is within our Power Automate, we can take that email and match it against the complaints that exist. And then from there, we can say, oh, this email is complaint 0010, and this is the current status of that complaint. And then maybe in progress or whatever it is, that will now come as an output from your flow, and your flow will pass it back to the Copilot Studio agents, and then the agent can display that back to the user. So that's an example of the input and the output parameters. So let's talk about solutions. In the Power Platform world, the ideal way to create your Power Platform, with your agents, your flows, any of those Power Platform elements is within a solution. And why do we do that? We do that because it makes it easy to maintain different versions of your application or your bot or your flows. So so imagine if you had an end-to-end, like you had an application where the user is going into the app, and maybe somebody from the back end, in the case of our support example, is actually working on that ticket. And the interface that that person is using is a Power App. So I'm going into a just like an application, a regular app, any of your apps. But I'm going now as a caseworker and I'm going to update it. So that means that your solution will have an app inside because somebody needs to update the ticket. And then from there, the ticket is updated. So you have an app in your solution. Then you have your agents, which we have spoken about. You have your Power Automate that is passing the data back and forth. So all of these things need to be saved together because you, in a solution, then as you move from your dev environment to your test environment to your production environment, and then there's a need for a hot fix on the app, and there's a need for, oh, we want to do a version 2. All of that will be managed in a simple way. And that's where we use the term application lifecycle management, because that starts to talk about how do you manage the different versions of your application. And I'm sure we're familiar with the various apps on our phones. We'll say, oh, there's a new update available. There's a new update available. So all of those updates, there is a way that it needs to be managed to ensure that there is no conflicts of, oh, we thought version 2.1 was the latest, but there's a version 2.2. And then you need to roll back and it all becomes very messy. So that's the advantage of using solutions. So as we do that, as we build these applications in the real life environment. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Okay, so hi everyone. So on the conversation node, thank you very much. So on the conversation node, I'm going to go back and I just want to show you how Power Automate works quickly. So I'm going to go back and use before bringing the action for Power Automate, I need to use either a variable at the top or a conversation node at the top as an input for the flow. Okay, if you have any questions, just watch and you can ask me your questions. So I just want to ask a simple questions like, how can I contact, in this particular scenario, I can use a knowledge, like I can use knowledge instead, but I just want to use Power Automate instead. Yeah, okay. What is your, okay, let's try something. Wait. So question node, we're using multiple choice. Let's look at this one first. Give me a moment. So this particular other one here, we have, this is also an example of a Power Automate being used. So in this particular point, we have the action, like I showed you before. You just have to come here, click on action, and then because the flow is already there, you just have to go there and click on the flow, which is in this particular scenario, it is get option sets. When you click on the get option sets, it's going to show this interface for you. When it shows this interface, you have to select the inputs. The input is this variable, which is this variable 2. That's the input. So you can rename it if you want to, but the input is variable 2. Then the output is coming from the flow, which is demo option. The output is coming from the flow, which we can see here. I get it's a little bit confusing, but which we can see in this particular point. But something I want to point out is that after calling, this is you just calling your Power Automate flow, your action, either be it an agent flow or a Power Automate flow. This is you calling your Power Automate flow. And this is you bringing the output. This is you bringing the output from Power Automate. Okay, this is you bringing the output from Power Automate. And then because we have this particular question is that we have like the best way to, if you're working with this particular scenario, what it is covered on is that if you're working on an option set in data vast table, an option set is just a choice column, like a choice column that has 2 options that you can choose from, where you want to choose, like in this question, you have what services do you want? Like what type of services do you want? So instead of using a multiple choice option here, we are using an option from a list variable, like we are getting the data directly from DataVas. In the scenario that you can go to DataVas and update that particular choice column, like maybe you have a services on call, you have a services on snacks, on cakes, on ice cream, that these are the things that you do, and you want to be adding more data to it. Instead of adding it here in the topic, you just get to add it directly in your table. Okay, you get to add it directly in your choice column in the table. So that is what these options from a list variable is doing. So after calling this particular Power Automate action, the next thing that I did was just to go to the list variable. I asked, what services do you want? This is a question node, okay? This particular conversation here is a question node. I asked, what services do you want? The identify, I did not choose multiple choice option, okay? Usually, you can either, in this particular scenario, you can either use a multiple choice option. When you're using a multiple choice option, that does not include a Power Automate flow anymore. That is just, it will pick it directly from the choices you have added there, okay? So I'm working with options from a list variable, and options from a list variable is a table. So the list variable, in order to bring, so in Copilot Studio, what we also we use Power FX function. So you also need to learn Power FX function, just a bit of it if possible. So in this particular place, I'm using Power FX function to bring the data from the Power Automate flow. Like this is a Power Automate flow we have. This is okay, perfect. So let me just show you. This is the Power Visual Agent, and this is our input. Like this is our input that we are getting from here. Okay, we are getting our inputs. This is our inputs, and this is the variable that I'm calling. So I'm calling this is a list row action, and I'm calling a table. This is the name of the table. The table name is demo tables, and I'm selecting a particular column. So they said, if you see on this particular point, they say enter a comma separated list of columns with the unique name to limit which columns are listed. So this is a particular one I'm selecting. Then you have your select. This is like your select action. And your select action, the reason why I'm using this particular select action is to bring in, it's because of it's a choice column. Like there is 2 data in it, okay? So I'm trying to bring that data I'm trying to bring that data into this select field, into the select filter, the select column. Then at the end of it, I have a return value to Power Visual Agent. And I'm also using a expression here. This is Power Automate. I'm using an expression, and the expression is just union expression. So if you notice one thing now, since I have just 2 option sets, I'm using 2 body selects. Like I'm calling this particular action twice. I'm calling this action twice because I have it as 2 option sets, like 2 choice column in that particular table. So I'm calling this particular action twice. Then in this particular, then here in this topics, I have it as, so because usually if it's just a Power Automate flow that does not have an option set, like it's not an option set, it's just a normal. So let's say, for instance, now we have asked the question, services, what services do you deliver? So let's say, for instance, we're using a Power Automate flow for this, okay? If we're using a Power Automate flow for this, or more of a, I prefer to use a send a message instead. It's much easier to call the variable. So you get to call I prefer using a send a message variable in that particular point. Let me show you. So in this message node, I just have to call this variable. If I click on this particular thing here, we see where I can insert a variable. And the output here, I can call the output from this particular action. So if I say hello, this, so the answer from the Power Automate flow, like what the answer the Power Automate flow has gotten would now come in here instead. Okay, so with this, if it's a normal Power Automate flow that does not involve option sets, this is the way I would do it. I don't have to use Power FX function. I just want to tell you that, like, it's not necessary for me to use a Power FX function in that particular point. But since it's a Power FX function, since it's a 2 option sets, and I want it to come in this way, let me show you the reason why I'm using that, why I want it to come. Let me copy this and delete it. So now if we test this one here, we have meeting. So anything that has been, any particular node that has been run, it will show a mark. Like you can see this mark here showing you that this has run, this has run. Then this particular one that it's still like, this is the one that's supposed to run now. So when I say what services do you want, you can see it's now coming as a button where I have a call and email button. So in this particular formula now, that is what I'm passing into this place. I want it to show as a button. So that is what I'm passing into this place. I'm passing that action as a pass JSON. You see, that's what I'm doing right here. So, but normally, if it's just a normal response, like a normal response from the Power Automate flow, I'm going to use a send. I'm just going to directly use a send an email. I'm just directly going to use a send message instead. So let's paste. I already copied it before. Let me just paste it. Okay, so I'm just directly going to use this. I don't have to use a Power FX function. I'm just going to directly use that, and it's going to bring the response directly from Power Automate. Let's try this particular one. Let's see how it's going to look like. Let's save it.